Stan Fischler with NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman, and of course everybody all excited about the playoffs generally. How do you feel about the way the games have gone into the second round?
I think the first round was phenomenal. We set a record for overtime games. Our buildings have been full. Television coverage has been great, and we're seeing tremendous hockey in the second round as well. And so I think fans have a lot to appreciate and feel good about.
Now, from the commissioner's view, your thoughts about the Domi Niedermayer episode?
Well, I think that I have to be a little careful in what I say, because somebody in the media told me that Ty Domi today in his press conference said he was thinking about appealing Colin Campbell's decision, and if it gets appealed, it gets appealed to me. And obviously I have to deal with these things in the appropriate fashion. But I think Coley has been consistently very strong, excellent, firm in the discipline that he metes out. He's been swift, he's been fair, and he's, I think, sent the right messages at the right time, and I think the league's fortunate to have him in that position.
Now, perhaps you can tell the fans how the standard is set in terms of when it's a suspension. Going back to the Dale Hunter, that was 21 games. McSorley was a long one. Niedermayer, 10 games. What made this one what it is in terms of the others, and how do you set a standard?
Well, actually, this one is somewhere between 10 and 17 games, because if the Maple Leafs were to win this series and play out through the Stanley Cup Finals, they could conceivably play 17 more games in this year's playoffs, and that would be a record suspension for the playoffs in the history of the league. Nothing close. Coley also decided that if the Devils win and this series runs shorts, then the punishment should carry over till next season. I think when you look at the precedent, when you look at the other suspensions that were done, when you look at ones that are comparable, when you look at all of the factors, the time in game, the history of the player, and all the other circumstances that led up to it, the injury that resulted, I think Coley did his best guess, best judgment as to what was appropriate. This is not an exact science, but I think he has a pretty good feel for it, and he's demonstrated that consistently.
Now, when you get a situation like this, you would like to set an example that would be a deterrent for future episodes. Do you feel that the league has this kind of deterrence?
Well, I think, you know, you can't simply make one person a scapegoat and change the rules of the game midstream. Discipline has to be progressive. There has to be precedent. It has to be, the response has to be within the realm of what has been reasonable and appropriate historically. You can build on it if you think the prior precedents haven't accomplished your objectives to deter that type of conduct, but it has to be progressive. If somebody got 2 games for slashing, okay, you can't all of a sudden the next day give somebody 40 games for slashing similarly. There is a progressive notion in the discipline we do, and I think Coley's done by and large a good job of handling it.
Well, hockey is a physical game, we know that. In terms of the physicality, do you think it's at the appropriate level now, or could get tougher, should be a little milder? How do you feel about the physicality of the game now, the way it's played?
This is a physical game. There's no doubt about that, but I think the rules that have been in place, the way the officials call the game, they try and strike a balance. I mean, there is a line that gets crossed occasionally, and we deal with it. But for the most part, the 750 players who play this game respect each other and do the right things night in and night out. One of the great strengths of this game is how physical it is, and it's one of the reasons the fans like it.
Thanks very much, Commissioner Gary Bettman. We'll have more right after this. Matt will join me, and we will discuss the first period. The Devils trailing 1-0 to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Stay tuned.